All right, Ernie.
Yes, sir.
Ernie, where'd you grow up? Where are you from originally?
I am born and raised in Greenwich Village. I was born in St. Vincent's Hospital, March 7th, 1961. I believe 7:45 a.m. or p.m. I can never remember whether it was morning or at night, but
You grew up in the city?
grew up in Waverly Place in 6th Avenue. I've only lived in three places my entire life. I lived till I was 24 on Waverly and 6th. And then I moved, I bought a co-op in 84, 85 on 15th and 5th, right around the corner from my high school. And then I moved into the place I'm staying in. I've been there 29 years on 20th and Park. And I have a really great rent-stabilized apartment there. And everyone in America has been into my apartment, and it's like a crash pad. They call it Ernie's Home for Wayward Girls, because I take in all these super hot models and I don't touch them too much, but I try to be a nice guy. But yeah, my entire life is an after-hours party, and it all happens at my apartment, and then I own bars too for a while. But yeah, I grew up on Waverly and 6th. I grew up right by Washington Square Park, and I went to school on Washington Square Park, St. Joseph's Academy. My father and grandfather owned multiple bars in Greenwich Village in the 60s. Most notably, my father owned the Stonewall in 68. I actually brought a photo. I know you say no stuff, but it's a really funny photo. Maybe later.
I'll include it.
What?
Maybe I'll include it.
Maybe you'll include it. We'll put it in there. You can edit it in. It's hilarious. It's him and his two partners holding up a sign that they cut off the door that the place had been raided, and they're laughing their heads off. You can see they're holding it up, kind of like, fuck you, cops, and then that's. And then my grandfather owned a supper club called the Bonsoir, which was a very famous cabaret. Barbara Streisand was discovered there. This is in her autobiography, and Vanity. I excerpted. I haven't read the whole thing, but there's some excerpts in Vanity Fair, and she thanks my father and my grandfather both for helping her get her start. And yeah, it was an interesting childhood growing up. Literally growing up in bars. After school, I would go down in the bar, and I would sit on the bar and with the soda gun and eat maraschino cherries. And my dad would come in and he'd, because you don't own the jukebox, you don't own the pool table, you concession it out. So he had a key, and then he would open it up and he would hit buttons, and I would just play everything on the jukebox. And then my dad was a pretty cool guy. He was a really good guy. And I don't know, I figured, in those days, $5-10. Because what would happen is every couple of weeks, a guy would come in to change the records, because the records, this was on the hit here and there. And so my dad would throw them, and I'd go, I want that record, that record, that record, that, because they basically, I think what they would do is they would take them, throw them out, and then they put the new records in, and this is last week's garbage. And yeah, it was interesting, because I have all these 45s. I'm going to get a jukebox in my apartment, and because they have this hole in them, because the arm goes in. It's like when on the beginning of Happy Days, where it comes in and picks up the records. But yeah. But
What makes New York City so great for you?
I don't know. It's just a lot different now. But when I was young, New York, it's always been a melting pot. My grandparents were all off the boat. They worked hard, gave me a really good life.
What country is your family from?
All Italian, 120%, FOB, off the, literally, and they all came here in, 1902, 1910. My grandfather, Ernie, because I'm actually the third, so there's my grandfather, Ernie Sr., my dad's junior, and I'm Ernie the third, or Ernie the Turd, they call me, And Yeah, he said there were cowboys and Indians, literally like cowboys and Indians in
In New York City?
still around, in the United States, roaming around
I
the
see.
West,
Right.
And to have him live to see men walk on the moon, must have been an incredible thing for these people, But they were hardworking people. They were good people, simple people, all about family. I think, New York, it had its neighborhoods, and my mother was from Hell's Kitchen, and my grandmother's sister's husband owned a butcher shop. My best friend growing up, Peter Diudo, owned a bakery. It was an artisanal kind of concept, New York, and
Especially downtown.
What?
Especially downtown.
Especially downtown, and I could go in the store and I could get a candy bar and a can of soda, and the guy would put it on a tab, and your parents would come down and pay it later and stuff. And I remember my mother used to send me down for cigarettes or tampons or something crazy. She used to have to write a note for me because they wouldn't give it to me because I was a kid. But there was a deli right downstairs, and there was a diner, and you knew. I mean, listen, we knew the bums in the park. We knew the bums in the park. Bear, swamp rat. We had names for them, and you'd see them. Hey, what's going on? And they'd be around for 6 months, a year, and then in the winter they'd disappear. I guess you can't really sleep on a park bench in New York. I think if you're going to be homeless, it's better to go to Miami or LA or somewhere where it's a little more, the climate's a little better, and you can be outdoors a lot. But yeah.
But music was your thing?
Yeah, I got into music at a very young age. I think the first album I ever bought was Jackson 5's Greatest Hits. The first single I ever bought, Joy to the World by Three Dog Night. I thought Jeremiah Was a Bullfrog was such a fun. And then I bought a Who album because I thought Magic Bus, it's like fun, the Beatles. My mom had some albums, so I used to play her Beatles albums, and she had some Doors and Supremes and a few other things, America. I still have the albums that she had. I still have some of her, the sound system. My parents had a really good sound system in the house. And we lived in a building, everybody lived, all my aunts, uncles, cousins, peripheral family. There was 75 apartments in the building on Waverly and 6th, and we all lived in the building. Some of my relatives still live in the building over there on the corner of Waverly and 6th. And then I went to grammar school on the park, and my dad had the Stonewall was down the block, and the bars were, and then when I got to a certain age, if I went in a bar, they were like, oh, it's Ernie's kid, give him a drink, It was kind of like keys to the candy store. People wonder why I'm such an alcoholic now, but, it's a treacherous slope.
You graduated high school?
Yeah, I actually skipped a year. I was actually I had all kinds of awards, and I was very quiet, believe it or not, quiet child. I took a test. My grammar school closed down in my 7th grade, so they allowed us to take a test to skip 8th grade, and only 22 kids in New York were allowed to take it. Only 11 passed, and 3 of them came from my school. And so I wound up jumping in front. But what was great was my cousin and a bunch of other guys that were a year ahead of me that I went to school with, relatives, were in Xavier. But Xavier was one of the greatest experiences I've ever had. I mean, it's kind of a bitch because it's a all-boy military optional Jesuit high school, so but the bonding, it was almost like being in the Army, it's the only thing I can compare it to is being in the military. I mean, it was literally a combination of Lord of the Flies meets Fight Club. It was bare knuckle boxing and fist fights and knives and drugs and music and then the Jesuits were always trying to bust you and giving you detention, and then there's a lot of guys were in the military and there were different factions and But yeah, I still keep in touch with a big crew. I go to all my high school reunions, and I go and do some volunteer work over there and stuff, raise money for them. I think it was a really good education, and not having women around. I hated it when I was there, but it's like women are a distraction. I always say that, they're a good distraction. I love women, but when you're there, you're not worried about how you look and who, blah blah blah. You're actually learning shit, and you're being more, it's a bit more pack mentality because you're not getting distracted by women. But yeah,
And the 60s and 70s were great decades to grow up in.
I think, I don't know. I feel like I'm always in the right place at the right time for some reason, I'm a little lost now because I feel like I'm an analog man in a digital world, so I'm kind of trying to grapple with all the technology and social media. And, I was saying to someone about how I'm 63 now. Phones have only been around for maybe 30 years, right? 35 years. So that's 30 years. I got paid, I got laid, I traveled the world. I had a roll of quarters in your pocket. You had a phone at the house, you had a phone in the office, and you figured it out, You got on your bike and you rode around, or and you didn't have all this fucking LoJack walking around in your pocket.
It's a different world now.
Yeah. I feel bad for the kids in some ways, It is what it is, and I find it very convenient. And,
Did you have dreams of doing something in high school? After you graduated?
I never really, I was always kind of a science kind of guy, I was always into science fiction. I like physics. I won science awards. My grandmother always pushed me, be a dentist, be a doctor. I'm like, fuck that shit, It's like, fucking, but she, coming from that they didn't graduate high school and they had nothing. They came from Depression era, a loaf of bread saved their lives. They wanted something better for me. But my buddy and I, we wanted to be oceanographers, We wanted to go in submarines and save the whales and kind of do hippy-dippy shit. And after high school, I got kind of aimless, I started selling drugs. I was doing a lot of drugs, And I was living at home. And because of my selling drugs, I stumbled into real estate. Lucky me, somebody up there likes me. And I started doing real estate in 1980. And then in 1983, one of my mentors, Arthur Ermelino, love that guy. It's like Frank Sinatra meets Rodney Dangerfield, Yeah, he was a brilliant guy. I'm going to get misty. But he sent me to this guy, Mike Cortolo, and I started doing commercial real estate financing. They gave me a script, and I was in a boiler room, and call. I was doing 100 calls a day, and you're hungry. I was lucky. I was making money selling drugs on the side. I was living at home, so I didn't really have the pressure. But, and interest rates were 21%. It was a pretty brutal market then, it wasn't really a big market there. And I've been doing that for 40 years now, It's been very good for me because it allows me to grow my hair and, travel. And, if I have a phone with me, which again, I'm not, I know the trappings of technology. It has some uses that you can be sitting on a beach and nobody knows where you are, But, yeah, I got into real estate. I guess my dream always was to do music, which I did. I did a lot of. I owned recording studios. I've been in multiple bands, I've had a lot of a lot of bandmates have died, so that kind of takes the wind out of your sails, or I find that the what do they say, madness and genius, it's a fine line between madness and genius. I think that the more prolific that the artists are, the more difficult they are to deal with, the more addictions, the more stuff they have going on, and they tend to self-destruct. And you depend on them, because I'm kind of like a Morrison or Bo. I can play some instruments and stuff, and I'm a good songwriter, and I'm a good singer, and I'm a good organizer. I'm a really good front man, but I'm not a great guitar player. I'm not a great. I need a band behind me. It's a team that helps you to kind of succeed. And we're actually doing a reunion, a 40-year reunion of a bunch of people I played with. And I'm scraping through some tapes. I'm trying to get all my tapes on, and I'm trying to get together to go down to New Orleans. I have one of my friends who's a really great musician, James Patton Walsh, Jimbo, the Fat Man. He's down in New Orleans, so I'm going to go down there and do some recording. I owned a recording studio for a while out in Long Island. That was a lot of fun, going in and cutting analog tape. It's a lost art, I know you're my age. I don't know if you've ever been in a recording studio, but I think it's people don't understand. Everything's digital, and it's not the same. It's just not the same. The feel, the analog essence of it. But yeah, I think I got a book in me. I think I got an album in me. I think I got but Burning Man's been a big passion of mine.
Really?
Have you been?
Never.
Never. It's a life-changing experience for me. It was 10 years, my friends. 10 years. And these weren't like punk-ass rave kids with glow sticks and neon fucking, dancing around. These were real estate guys, architects, doctors, like real people saying, you gotta come. And I was like, why would I go to Burning Man? I have fucking hot and cold running hookers if I turn the dial right, It's fucking one phone call, 6 drug dealers show up at your house, I can go in bars and just take bottles off the bar and say I'll bring it back tomorrow. It's it never sleeps, New York, and it's a dangerous concept because it's too much access, So, yeah, but I went to Burning Man. I've been 13 times. I've ran camps, and it's kind of where my focus is now, working with a lot of other artists, I think that I was once called by a stranger a facilitator. The fuck is that? Yeah. But I kind of realized that I'm a connector, I think that I was do you know what a quartermaster is?
No.
In the Army.
I've heard.
So quartermaster.
Heard the term.
You know the show MASH? Mm-hmm. Radar O'Reilly's the quartermaster. So he kind of communicates. He food goes here, this goes there. And I realized at one point that I must have been in like fucking Alexander the Great's army, in the past life, running, fucking send that here, go there, do this, do that, and deals behind the table and little this and that, I'm good at it. People like me, and I try to be gentle, but yeah. I mean, I don't know. Who am I? It's a hard question. I think the older you get, the more, why am I here? What am I doing? I try to help people as much as I can, but you can only do so much for human beings, I think. I think that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. You can present them with all these opportunities and stuff, and then they just, it's up to them to make the choice to, buy in. What I do these days now is I don't tell people what to do. I tell people what not to do. because I don't think anyone wants to be told what to do. I know if someone tells me what to do, I do the opposite. Just cut off my nose to spite my face.
Do you have regrets in your life?
That I haven't traveled as much as I should, that I've been trapped in the rock. It's either I don't have the money to travel, and then when I do have the money, then I'm too busy making the money. But it's bullshit. You can always leave, and it's New York makes me very complacent. I did live in L.A. for a while, which was a really great experience. I lived in Skid Row. I was on Saracen 7th, and
3 blocks from my studio down there.
I was right. I don't know if you know the Blue Building which burnt down, and Super Chief burnt down. Everyone burnt down over there, and I was with Dream Rockwell. I don't know if you know Dream.
I don't.
So I moved in. She put me in with a bunch of circus performers. So everyone's like, "Where are you?" I'm like, "I ran away and joined the circus," And I'm with a bunch of I'd come out in the morning. I was in a 7,000 square foot warehouse with 60-foot ceilings, with a 1,000 square foot bedroom. That overlooked everything, and I would just come stumbling out with a bottle of sake in my robe, and there'd be 20 girls doing yoga and people spinning and doing fire things, It was really, really cool. And, I really liked Skid Row. It's the only thing that reminded me of New York when I was a kid, New York in the 70s, because it was kind of lawless, and I think that...
Still is.
God bless it, because New York to me it's too neat and tidy now. It's too fucking, nothing's open. You can't get, if you're not in a restaurant at 9 o'clock, you're not getting dinner in New York anymore. We went to Wohop's. I don't know if you know Wohop's.
I don't.
It's a famous restaurant that was always open 24 hours a day. And Peter and I went there the other night, and it closes at 10 o'clock. That's it. CBGB's is gone. Wohop's closes at 10. It's just fucking over. Why am I here? I don't know. I like Miami. I do want to get back, but I think the Skid Row, a lot of the buildings burnt, a lot of people, moved out.
Well, Skid Row's a rough existence. It's a rough life.
Listen, I grew up on 3rd Street with the Hells Angels floating around me, and then when I was back home, I had all mob guys around me. My dad was... this was an interesting concept. So my dad owned the Stonewall in '68, and I said to him, I was about 13 or 14. My mom's a model. My dad was a ladies' man. And I said, "What's up with the gay bars, Dad?" He said, "They never fight. They're out every night. They pay money. What's not to like about it, And they're getting their asses kicked if they go in somewhere else." He put a big guy here and a tranny at the door, and he charged $1. I think he was one of the first people to charge a cover charge to get in, walk into a bar. But, you think about 200 people going in and out, that cash in the pocket that pays all your staff, and it's untraceable. But I realized, I'm like, all these, Zucchi Esposito, Zucchi, I knew the Gallows, I knew the Gambinos, the Pontes. I went to school with their kids. My dad wasn't in the mob. I realized he was the fucking Beard. You had to have one guy who was clean, because you can't get a liquor license. So what happened was my dad was the Beard. They wouldn't take him in the crew. They wouldn't bother him. They put the money in, and he'd open the place and run it, take his vig, and fucking move on. I mean, he had 10, 15 places at a clip at some points, But, interesting times,
The fact that you spent some time on Skid Row tells me drugs have been a part of your life.
Oh, major part of my life. I mean, I've been through all kinds of, I started smoking pot when I was 11. I think I was wake and bake at 13, And I smoked an ounce one day with my friend. And this was like in 76 or 77, a good Dead show, like an all-day Dead show in Jersey. I got heavily into psychedelics, mushrooms. I fell in with the Native American church on 9th Street between 1st and 2nd, and I used to get peyote. Very intense, you know. I'm a bit of a psychonaut. Acid, lots of acid. More recently, ketamine. I really like ketamine because it's quick, short, clean. It's potentially non-abrasive to the body. I think I drink a much. I've moved away from Coke. You know, I do Coke very sparingly because the cocaine is a cup of coffee in my mind. You know, it just keeps you, so you could stay out late and keep drinking. And then I'll dabble in certain things at a festival here or a concert there and stuff like that. But I stopped doing really the hardcore psychedelics. I mean, years and years. I was a psychonaut, but I do like ayahuasca. I think ayahuasca is a useful tool. I think it's a medicine. Have you done?
Never.
No, it's really profound. It's very profound.
Yeah, I've heard good things about it. If there was something I was going to try, it'd probably be something like that.
Yeah, well, you know, whenever you're ready, you know, you have to. The important thing with ayahuasca is you want to find the right shaman. You want to find the right Teton. It's not about the drug itself. It's about the brew he makes and about the guidance, because you're in, I don't know if you've ever read Carlos Castaneda, but again, it's a separate reality. It's an alternative reality, and the DMT is called the God molecule, and yeah, it's an interesting concept. I mean, when you're doing peyote, it's a slower. It's the same molecule as DMT and ayahuasca. It's a slower. So to me, DMT is too fast. You know, you're in another dimension and you're down. You can't work with it. You know, you can't work with it. And with peyote's, you know, 10, 15 hours. You know, ayahuasca's 6, 8 hour, mushrooms are 5. You know, you can work with the plant medicine. You can kind of, you know, tap into nature and you start to see patterns, and you know, it can heal a lot of PTS things, and yeah, it's interesting. I need to get more back into psychedelics and out of the tobacco, cigarettes, and alcohol. I think that they're really the more vile and addictive, and you know, they're legal. You know, so yeah, but you know, sex and drugs and rock and roll.
You've been around long enough to ask this question. Which decade has been your favorite?
That's an interesting one, because my childhood was great. I wasn't really aware of what was going on. I mean, I had twinges of it, you know, listening to the Beatles and the music and the AM radio.
70s were amazing.
70s were fucking, Motown is my town. You know, I love J5, Temptation, Spinners, OJ, you know, all that stuff just thrilled me. You know, and then prog rock came out. You know, and then I got into glam rock, you know, and then the Bowie came in and stuff. And I mean, I would say, I could probably think the 70s to me was your Pink Floyd, The Who, you know, all these guys were at their peaks. You
Stones,
know, and
Zeppelin, Elton John, Allman Brothers.
Yeah,
it just goes on and on.
Nonstop. It was nonstop. But I remember one day, I think it was 77, and I grew up with 2 sets of brothers, 5 of us. We had a band, you know, I was the singer, and there was a keyboard player and a bass player and drummer and a guitar player. It was 2 sets of brothers. And we used to fight, you know, because I liked this band and they liked that band, and so you'd fight what album to put on. And I remember one night, one guy came in, he's like, "You gotta hear this." And it was the God Save the Queen by the Sex Pistols, you know, and it had the blacked out. And it was actually, what happened was you couldn't get a copy where it wasn't scratched, like they'd scratched the album to make it so you couldn't play it properly. But I heard that, and then someone else came on and put on Bohemian Rhapsody. And I'm like, to me, that's like the 2 most dichotomistic, but it was happening right at the same time.
And equally awesome.
And I did like the Pistols, you know, I did like the punk movement, you know, Talking Heads, 77, you know, and, you know, I mean, I think there was great stuff in the 80s, 90s. picked it up again, Pearl Jam, the first album, Saturday Jane's Addiction, there's a lot of good stuff went on there. I think it kind of faded out after that. I would say probably the 70s in that area, the late 60s into the early mid 80s, But I still find there's a lot of stuff. I'm a big King Crimson fan, Robert Fripp, Brian Eno. These guys are still kicking it. They're back out on tour, and I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. Peter Gabriel, another really big influence on Bowie. God love him. Yeah, I'm a rocker, but.
And you had clubs of your own?
I had 2 bars. I had Bar 16 on First Avenue and First Street, and that was a beer and shot joint, but we were desperate for business, so we did a lot of unique things because we were so desperate for business that we would give people chances. So we were one of the first places to do live music with a DJ. They called it trip hop in those days. It was kind of right after the acid jazz movement. I don't know if you know acid jazz, but there was a thing called acid jazz in England, which was basically these rhythm and blues funk bands. It was a DJ with a live band. Giant Step, I think, was the big label. And so that was our big, and then we also did a burlesque thing called Vampiros Lesbos. And we had a collapsible go-go cage, and we had this guy Franco, and this German guy, and he had all this like mid-60s to late 60s, he called it red light music. It was like this go-go kind of Esquivelli kind of, it was really great. And he was really like a connoisseur of it. And there was nothing you ever heard. And Vampiros Lesbos is a Russ Myers film, which I think it's from Lair of the White Worm or something. It's some sexual innuendo. Yeah, and the girls would have because they couldn't go naked, they would have little outfits on, with airplane propellers or Sheena of the Jungle or a nurse outfit. And, they would come in and we got write-ups in the New York Times and, we were a little bit ahead. And now there's a lot of places like the Slipper Room and stuff that's doing burlesque. But, it was like, listen, people come to me and say, hey, we want to do something. And I'm like, please get some fucking people in here. I need the business, and so you gave them a chance. And you supported them. You gave them a couple of weeks to get going, It's kind of like A&R with music, There used to be guys that would go out and they'd see someone and say, hey, listen, I'll come, I'll give you a budget, I'll show you how to dress. Brian Epstein, there was a Kit Lambert with The Who, Peter, you had a manager and he came in and he developed you and he helped, he negotiated, I don't think you really have that now. I think people have to be self-starters, and then they'll pick you up when you start to get traction, because then, it's an easy call to come in and pick you up and not really have to deal with, with developing, artists and repertoire. But, and then I had a bar called Magnum, which is where I got my nickname, Ernie Magnum. It was at 357 West Broadway, right near Cipriani's. I don't know if you know the Cipriani's on West Broadway. And that was interesting. That was like a flash in the pan. But that's where I got my street cred. And we fought over it because we were like, oh, it's a gun, it's a this, it's a condom, it's a shit. And we're like, fuck it, 357. So my other bar was called Bar 16 because it was 16 First Avenue. So it was always, the name was a shameless self-promotion. It was like you knew the address because of the name, in a sense. And Magnum was a real shit show. Yeah, real shit show. But I met Mick Jagger, Lenny Kravitz, De Niro, the Yankees, the Bono, you name it. You couldn't get in the place one night a week, and then every other night of the week, no one wanted to come in there. But so I'm in my bar Magnum. It was a very small place. It had a long bar, and it only had 9 tables. Legally, we were only allowed to fit 73 people in there. Sunday nights, I don't know why, these two promoters had a party going on, and we would get about 150 to 200 people. I mean, you couldn't fucking move. It was 45 minutes to get in the toilet. The cocktail waitress couldn't get drinks. You couldn't move in the place. So I'm sitting at the table. My ex-girlfriend, Simone Dodson, was there. She was a Tyra Banks lookalike. And we were together for 3 years. So I'm a serial monogamist. But we had split up. She's there at the table. There's a bunch of us there. And someone says to me, "Oh, Mick Jagger's in the house." And I'm like, "Stop fucking around with me. Don't fucking..." And I look over and I see Mick Jagger, like, and I jump up and I run out, fucking pushing people out of the way. And I go, Mr. Jagger. And he goes, I said, "Hi, I don't want to bother. I'm Ernie, I'm the owner. Would you like a table?" He went, table, yeah, table. Dude, he was so spry. He followed me, jumps over banquettes, right? He had this piano player with him that he had just done Goddess in the doorway with, and he had his bouncer, Clive was his name, really nice guy, huge guy. And so I told everyone, get the fuck off the table, but he likes girls. So, I champagne for everyone. Mick Jagger's in the house. He wouldn't drink. So he's chatting my girlfriend up. And I'm sitting there like this, going like this. I'm going, oh my God. Mick Jagger's hitting on my ex-girlfriend. I'm like, please take her home and fuck her. So I could call Page 6 tomorrow and tell her Mick Jagger fucked my ex-girlfriend. I thought that was, Anyway. Yeah, he was, he doesn't want to talk to dudes. He's into chicks, and why would I don't want to talk to dudes, even though I own the place. And then I saw him the next night at Joe's Pub, and they put him at the shitty table, and I went over and I said, "Hey, Clive, how you remember me, Ernie?" And I said, "Mick, it's I got some girls want to meet you." And then he came over, and then. He was doing the Jagger dance, and I'll never forget, they put on Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Yellow Polka Dot Bikini, and it killed me. He's like, Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Yellow Polka Dot. It's like Mick Jagger singing Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny. It was so fucking funny. Who else? P. Diddy I never liked. He used to come. Lenny Kravitz was a really cool guy. Lenny never drank. He was always very cool. He'd come in, hot girls. I used to take him up to the office to go use the bathroom. I'd see him and then, "Lenny, come on, you and your girl go up in the office and use the bathroom and stuff." And I used to throw the Yankees out of there. Chuck Knobloch and David Wells would be in there. And then I'd see them the next day, fucking missing catches and shit. And I'm like, dudes, get the fuck out of my bar. You're too busy chasing. You guys suck. Get out of my, because they would stay till 5 or 6 in the morning and they had a game the next day. And Magnum was a real, wow. And there was a point I knew it was going under, so I just ran it 24 hours a day.
Where was Magnum?
What?
Where was Magnum?
It was at 357 West Broadway between
so your whole life is downtown.
What? Yeah, I get a nosebleed above 23rd Street, I need a Sherpa when I go uptown. Oxygen mask.
You've been in love before?
Probably too many times. I fall in love every other fucking day, I'm a lost romantic, And I've had quite a few. I'm a serial monogamist, I prefer to be in a relationship because I don't have to, it takes so much work to figure out a person and get the trust and build it and figure out, what buttons to push, which ones not. We're all, as I say, life is easy, people are hard, I think that, it's 7 years, 5 years, 3 years, 2 years, and then one of them broke me bad, and then I went on a real bad spell, and, now I'm just a freelance vandal, but, I just broke up with someone I was living with for 9 months,
You never got married, though?
What?
Never got married.
Been engaged a couple of times, running through the raindrops, as I call it, you know. But no kids, no married, you know. Some women, like when they meet me, they're like, "What the fuck is? Something must be wrong with you." And I'm like, "No, it's a matter of choice, you know." Because I'm the kind of person, when I do something, I do it right. I do it once, I do it right. I'm not going to do this, you know. I've been too many weddings, and then 6 months later they're getting bitter. You know, I'm even seeing it now with certain friends. You know, it's vile. You know, I don't need a social contract. I don't need a piece of paper to tell me when I'm with someone. You know, I cheated once when I was a kid, and you know, I didn't get caught till 10 years later. It bit me in the ass. But, you know, I broke a really great woman's heart. We're friends now. We talk all the time and stuff. And I love the shit out of her. I went to both her weddings, and I'd do anything for her. 7 years I was with her. But she was my first girlfriend. I'm fucking kids, you know. She was 16. I was 20. She lied. She was working in a fucking bar, and she told me she was 19. You know, and in those days, drinking age was 18. And then she told me she was 18, and then I'm having dinner with her mother out in Brooklyn, and the mother says, well, she's 16 years old. And I'm like, and then she said, don't go home, stay on the couch. Her family loves me. I love them too. Her family was, when I split up with her, I don't know, I was almost more upset about losing her family than her, but you know. Yeah, love is a strange and wonderful thing, you know? I think you have to love yourself first before you can love anybody else. I think that, you know.
It helps.
If you don't trust yourself, you can't trust anyone. If you don't respect yourself, you can't respect anyone else. You can't, you know, to me, it all comes from the individual. You know, I think that, you know, you manifest from yourself, and then you flow outwards, you know. And, you know, when you're broken and when you don't have, you can't give to any, you know, and you try, but you're basically just depleting what you don't have already. And, you both of you are going down at that point, you know. At some points, you know, I don't think it's, I was talking with someone about this the other night. It's not selfish, it's smart. If you don't take care of yourself first and foremost, you can't take care of anyone else, you know. And that's why, you know, contrary to a lot of people's, you know, everyone thinks I'm a pretty rabid alcoholic and radical drug artist. I'm a drug artist, not a drug addict. But no, I eat very well, and I do chiropractic, acupuncture, you know, I steam rooms, all kinds of supplements and stuff like that. And I think that, you know, I've been eating good since I'm a kid. I don't have a sweet tooth. You know, if I didn't drink alcohol, I'd be in really good shape. But you know, but
you look pretty good for 63.
Dude, I got a lot of dead friends at a lot younger ages. You know, and a lot of bigger, healthier, stronger people than me. I don't know whether it's genes or someone. He's keeping me around for some reason. He wants something out of me that I haven't done yet. You know. I don't know what it is, but I'm still waiting for instructions, you know? Yeah.
Ernie, what would you say is the most important lesson you've learned in your life?
Most important lesson? I got really fucking wasted one night. I did a fucking cap of chocolate mess with a drop of LSD in it. And I was supposed to go see the Rolling Stones backstage at the Palladium, and the concert fell apart. I was at a kegger out in Hoboken, and I came in the city, and I went to this after-hours club. And bouncing off the walls. And everyone in the club knew me, and they put me in a cab. And the next night, my dad grabbed me. My dad never hit me, but he was a lot bigger than me. And he picked me up, and he banged me up against the wall, and he said, I don't ever want to get that phone call again. I don't ever want to hear that you didn't respect yourself. Respect yourself. Fuck, and, you know. So I think respecting yourself and you know, kind of understanding your value. Life is precious. You know, it can be gone in a heartbeat. And in my mind, every day above ground is a good day, and it can always get worse, you know? And then there's some fucking poor kid eating a bowl of dirt somewhere on the planet, you know? And I'm privileged to be sitting here in this room talking to you know? And, you know, sometimes it makes me, you know, humility is an interesting, you know, it humbles you, and gratitude is my attitude. You know, you have to be grateful. I try to pray to my food and water, and, you know, really think about what it takes to put food on the, you know, everyone's phoning it in. To me, everyone's fucking phoning it in right now in this world, you know? And it, you know, entitlement and privilege is really kind of ruining things. But I don't like to get negative, because negative thoughts create negative reality. So you got to all constantly be, you know, I only see potential. You know, I again, remind me about how to make a knife. But I work with human beings. I like to look at people from the worst aspect. When you look, you're a junkie, you're a thief, you're a fucking whore, you're a this, you're a liar. If you go at that and you play to their worst, you can't go wrong. There's no down, there's only up. So I don't mind working with all my friends are all fucked up. Everyone's fucking bent for the rent. Maybe, I don't know about you, but you know, you seem like a pretty straight guy. But so, how do you make a knife?
How do you make a knife?
Have you ever watched a guy make a samurai knife?
Never.
Go on YouTube. You take a piece of fucking stone, right? You pick a piece of ore, iron, and you fucking heat it, and you pound it, and you hit it, and you pound it, and you tease it, and you cool it, and you heat it, and you hit it, and the guy does this for weeks and weeks and weeks, and he folds it, hits it, and after 10,000 hours, he's got this fucking blade that you know, could slice a hair with. And I feel that the bad shit that happens to you, if you can spin it right, only makes you stronger. I think it only, you know, I was watching, there's a drummer named Bill Bruford from Yes, and he was saying that my left hand, why I have this unique sound, because my left hand was weak and it was my flaw. And what I did is I learned how to use it. So I had to do a rim shot. So I learned how to do this special way to hit the drum, because I had to cut through the band and they didn't have mics. And he basically said you have to play to your flaws. And if you could play to your flaws, I think that that's a brilliant concept. You take the worst aspect of yourself and you kind of spin it out. You have to embrace your demons in some sense, and the only way out is through, you know? But, yeah, that's how you make a fucking knife. You beat the fucking living crap out of it and pound it and heat it and cool it. And I don't think happy, good, fun party makes anyone's real character. I don't think it does that. I mean, you know, people can dispute. I think it's you know, it's the tragedy and then the bullshit. You don't want to live in that. You don't want to dwell in that, but you want to take it and kind of fucking, you know, hone your knife, you know?
That's what makes us interesting.
Oh, come on. My grandfather used to say, that's what makes a horse race, you know, because it's different things going on.
All right, Ernie, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you. Hopefully, I'll see you again in the near future, and
Very
hopefully this was of some benefit to people. You know?
New Yorkers are great.
Yeah.
Thank you, man.